Okay, Kenrick. So you're a seasoned entrepreneur, and one that has done extremely well. So what are some of the success strategies you would share with other entrepreneurs?
So I'd say if, for example, you're now starting off and you don't have access to, let's say, securing loans or things like
Right.
that to start your business,
Yes.
then set aside some seed money. So,
Yes.
make some sacrifices, do it out some things, and set aside money to put towards achieving your goals.
Okay.
Um, get the necessary training if you have access to it so that you don't have to learn the hard way.
Right.
Save yourself time and money that way. Set out to do the best that you can possibly do. So have that passion
Yes.
and drive to push yourself even beyond what you would have originally set out to do. So you build your foundation and start to build from there. But do not ever hold back.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Urpreneur. Today I will be interviewing Kenrick Rampial. He's the founder and CEO of Silverpin Design Company Limited. It's more popularly known as Silverpin Studios. So with that, I'll turn over to Kenrick. Kenrick, what does Silverpin Studios do?
Okay, well, Karian, first of all, let me say thank you for inviting me on your show. So, Silverpin Studios, I would have to ask, what do we not do? Because, we do a complete range of, we offer a complete range of services
Yes.
from design to concept development, video production,
Yes.
photography. We ventured into printing services, canvas prints, and many other things are in the making, I should say.
Right. Okay. Wow. Wow. So tell me a bit about your story. So, I mean, the Silverpin Studios I know now is, one of the region's largest in this space. But what was your journey like?
Okay, well, it started, I should say, I started in terms of education in the field of computer science.
Okay.
And through an incident where I was involved in a car accident, I started to rethink my direction. And with some support from family members and, trying to find that space or that place,
Yes.
to utilize the gifts and the talents and the passion that you have,
Yes.
I eventually switched over to applied arts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like, it sounds like polar opposites.
It is, but I think I'm well able to adapt.
Yes.
So I apply a bit of logic and science. So I think what that allows me to do is to create a unique balance, especially when you're dealing with a variety of clients and offering a range of services.
Yes.
You have clients that may appreciate the artistic side, and then you have clients that focus deeply on the logic and science of how things work.
Right.
All right, so being able to bring those two things to the table and find a balance is what kind of set the foundation for Silverpin.
Okay, so Kenrick, I'm really intrigued. So there you were studying computer science, you made the switch. But how did that translate into a business? So, okay, you wanted to apply your talents, but then how did you do that? What happened next?
Okay, well, like a lot of things, when you pursue with that level of passion, it does not come easy.
Right.
In this field, to start as a business, even the capital setup fees, equipment costs, space rental is quite costly. So like a lot of entrepreneurs now, I started off by working for someone. So I worked in the field in advertising to the level of an art director.
Okay.
I worked with with some of the best, and I'd say the knowledge and experience that I gained there is
Right.
what amplified that drive to do more, to achieve more. And then the foundation from my parents, as my father would always instill in us, to pursue your passion, your goals, to do the best in everything that you set out to do. My mother would balance that with the love and emotion, and she was also a bit artistic in terms of she was a seamstress. She did a bit of hairdressing,
Okay.
flower arrangements. So all those things translated into what would have caused me to push in this direction.
Okay, makes sense. So when you decided to go on your own and start your own business, um, you mentioned that equipment is expensive and so on. How did you get financing for the equipment, or did you have savings, or um, what did that entail?
Well, I started off with using the savings that I had. And of course I started off small. So it was really a one-man operation when I started. And I started with the design aspect of the business. So back then, a computer to a computer to enable you to do graphic design work was even more costly than today. Memory was more expensive, the screens were expensive, those big Mac computers, I
Yes.
mean, they were pretty expensive, so I had to take a loan,
Right.
right? And that together with the savings that I had, I started off, I worked from home. So I cut down on expenses, overheads.
Right.
A simple one-room operation with a AC unit, a desk, and a computer. That's where I
Wow.
started. Yeah.
So, Kenrick, how did you know when the time was right to start your own business?
I think once you have a passion for something, there's always that little what would be the best term? There's something that prods you continuously to go out on your own, to be in control, to set your own destiny. When you want to achieve things without too much restrictions.
So you said you worked for some of the best firms.
Yeah.
You had risen to the level of, art director.
Yeah.
Weren't you afraid to leave that position? You had a salaried job, which, I guess there's that predictability, that comfort, working with reputable firms, and now to go out on your own. Like, what gave you the impetus? How did you know the time was right? Why not hold on for 5 more years? How did you know when it was time to leave?
Sometimes you recognize that you've outgrown the space that you're in,
Okay.
and you want more. You want to have the flexibility to push yourself further, to be more in control of your creative skills and your creative thoughts and ideas. You want to see things in a bigger picture. So you tend to that causes you to have that drive and determination to push forward.
Because of that burning desire to, as you said, unleash the full capability of your talent and creativity, you felt compelled to go on your own.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So when you finally went on your own, did you have second thoughts?
I did not have second thoughts, but there were times when it became difficult, and I had to be in a one-person operation. You had to wear several caps, so you had to do your own accounting, you had to do your own client services. It became frustrating at times. So I would definitely want to say what helped me through all of that was a strong spiritual foundation,
Yes.
which has been the basis even of Silverpin Studio as it is now.
Right. Okay. So looking back, what do you think you could have done differently or better?
I think in terms of starting a new business,
Yes.
maybe a little more research. I think definitely, because I never studied business, I would encourage any new entrepreneur. Don't think that you can figure things out just on your own. Maybe you will, but it's
Yes.
going to cost you along the way. So what you may spend 5 and 6 years learning in the field, if you acquire the correct training up front, you could save yourself a few years.
Okay. All right. And the kind of training that you're referring to, so you have the benefit of hindsight. What kind of research do you mean? Like enroll in a course or just talk to more business people or go on the internet? Like how do you think you could have accelerated that learning curve?
I would say a bit of all of those.
Okay.
And definitely starting with education.
Okay.
Enroll in a business class, learn the basics at least, to get you
Right.
started. Know how to balance your books, how to conduct business, how to cost, and how to factor in overhead expenses, and all the things associated with running a business.
Okay. In retrospect, do you think you should have started earlier?
No.
Okay.
I believe I started in the right time. The industry was not. So I would say I started before time, because the industry really was not open to smaller operations like mine at the
Right.
time. So to compete in that space, it was challenging. But it happened at that time, and we made the best of it, and here we are now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did the pandemic affect you? Were you impacted at all?
Yes, definitely. We because we are primarily service based. We There's a lot of interaction between customers, staff,
Right.
clients, and so on. So we had to tailor our operations
Yes.
to be able to continue to provide services, because there were some projects that could not just be put on hold.
Right.
So we had to find ways to continue tendering the jobs that we would have been tendering for, tenders that we would have won, and we needed to still supply some level of service.
Right.
We did have to take pay cuts across the board,
Yes.
from myself coming down to the management, staff, etc. And we did that to ensure that everyone would at least still remain employed during the lockdown periods.
Yes.
So there were some sacrifices, but I have to say that I'm very thankful that all of the team members were on board,
Okay.
and they supported fully, and they gave me the support that I needed to lead them through both of the lockdowns, to continue to operate, as we are now.
Okay, well, that's a relief to hear. So, what does the future look like for you? What do you see Silverpin, evolving or growing into in a year from now, 3 years, 5 years from now?
Well, let me first say that we came to this space 8 years ago.
Wow.
And when we came here, at that time, there wasn't a space this size offering this type of service. So there might have
Yes.
been smaller studio spaces.
Right.
So as you mentioned in the beginning, even throughout the Caribbean,
Yes.
it would have been a bold step to do
Yes.
something of this magnitude in the studio field. So coming forward to now, and where we're going to go in the next 1 to 5 years, I don't always know where exactly we're going to go, but
Yes.
wherever it is, we're going to go very boldly. It's obviously going to take us in the direction of more digital deliverables. So we are exploring things like online classes. In speaking with a lot of other experts in the industry, there seems to be a huge market now for online classes for video production, photography, even design services. And eventually, when we get back to more normal operations, we would eventually consider having workshops in the studio space itself. To say if we're going to expand the space itself, I can't say at this time. It's difficult with the economy and the pandemic. To say if we're going to expand into new spaces, it's difficult to say. But I mean, I am hopeful that we would eventually be able to do that.
All right.
At the time I did this, it would not have made any business sense. Pure gut and just doing something before its time.
Yes.
Yeah. Which works, not all the time, so there's always a risk.
Okay, Kenrick. So you're a seasoned entrepreneur, and one that has done extremely well. So what are some of the success strategies you would share with other entrepreneurs?
Okay, carry on. So I'd say if, for example, you're now starting off and you don't have access to, let's say, securing loans or things like
Right.
that to start your business,
Yes.
then set aside some seed money.
Yes.
So, make some sacrifices, do it out some things, and set aside money to put towards achieving your goals.
Okay.
Get the necessary training if you have access to it, so that you don't have to learn the hard way.
Right.
Save yourself time and money that way. Set out to do the best that you can possibly do. So have that passion
Yes.
and drive to push yourself even beyond what you would have originally set out to do. So you build your foundation and start to build from there. But do not ever hold back. Do not ever hold back. If you make mistakes, if you get with social media now, sometimes you may put stuff out on social media. You may not always get the type of feedback that you would be hoping to get.
Yes.
Do not let that derail you from
Yes.
pushing ahead, pressing forward. Give it everything and watch it materialize.
Okay. So have you tried other entrepreneurial ventures?
I'd say, unfortunately, yes, I did, which is why I'd say stick to what you know.
Yes.
I did open a agriculture and plant shop shortly after I started the Silverpin business.
Okay.
And I learned some very, very hard lessons because you're dealing with a whole different market, a whole different culture. You're dealing with farmers. You're competing against much larger agriculture shops and an industry where if you don't have the extent of capital to secure products at a competitive price,
Right.
you will sink. Yeah, you will
Okay.
sink. You have to be able to compete in that space. And if you really don't know the market, it'll be difficult. So I'd say stick to what you know.
Okay. All right. So what has been your biggest accomplishment to date, in your opinion?
Definitely seeing some of the people that came into Silverpin become successful, pursue their own dreams, start their own businesses. Some of them even now work with Silverpin as subcontractors. Just seeing people achieve their truest and fullest potential. I remember many incidents where young persons would have started in Silverpin, be it as designers, photographers,
Right.
or video production,
Yes.
and feel as though they couldn't make. A few of them wanted to give up. They became frustrated. It's not an easy industry.
Yes.
Long hours, difficult clients, having to scrap and going back to the drawing board with projects.
Oh.
It can be psychologically devastating for young people getting into this field.
Yes.
But then seeing them overcome it, giving them the encouragement, the push, Silverpin providing the platform that they could start to, get energy from.
Right.
I think is the greatest accomplishment to date for the company. It's the people.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very commendable, and that's great news. That's a testament in and of itself.
Thank you.
So just to switch gears a little bit, can you tell me or tell us something about yourself that maybe we don't know or that we would not have guessed about you?
Well, firstly, let me say that I'm not a chef, but I do love to cook.
Okay.
And recently, I've been doing a lot more cooking,
Okay.
experimenting with new dishes, developing some of my own recipes. So I've put a twist on things like peanuts and red skins, and I do some baking.
Okay.
I like to get fresh fish from the vendors and experiment
Yes.
with cooking. Yeah.
So could this be a new business in the making?
It could be. It could be. I guess I could also say I do have a little bit of not background but exposure to the industry,
Okay.
because I do sit on the board of the THRTA, which is the
Yes.
Trinidad Hotels, Restaurant and Tourism Association.
Okay.
So I from time to time did get involved with the TTHTI and more in terms of operations.
Right.
But I think I just always like experimenting in the kitchen. So who knows?
Okay, all right, all right. We're looking out for that. So, Kenrick, is there anything else you'd want to share with an entrepreneur that you think they might not know intuitively or they might not think about when they're getting into a business?
Don't try to purchase everything for the business.
Right.
You don't always need to own everything, especially in a field like this. In more recent times, there are a lot of new companies, like the foreign companies in New York, for example, that offer rental services.
Okay.
So you can rent equipment and resources to deliver on projects, on tailored projects, depending on your needs. So don't set out there and think, well, you need to have the best camera or the most expensive gear. You could end up in the first year or two trying to recover a lot of costs that you could have put towards growing your business. So don't spread yourself too thin as well. Know what your strengths are and focus on those strengths and build on those strengths.
Okay, that's interesting. So you're saying you're in Trinidad and you could rent an equipment from a company overseas.
Well,
So
even
meaning
even in Trinidad, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
So
okay, okay,
these
okay.
there are companies now in Trinidad that make these that offer these services, so it's more accessible now.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Okay, well, Kenrick, I learned a lot about your business in the time that we spent here, and I learned a lot about running a business in the time we spent here. So I want to thank you for imparting your experience and your knowledge, your learnings to entrepreneurs so that they can avoid as many of the pitfalls, in starting a business as possible. So we thank you for joining us and for sharing with us today.
Well, thank you, Karian, for having me again on your show, and I hope that to see a lot more young entrepreneurs taking the chance, being bold enough to step out and to not make some of the mistakes that I made, but to learn from people like us who have done it before and really put Trinidad and Tobago on the international map.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, well, guys, you heard it from Mr. Kenrick Rampial. He shared with us some amazing insights about going big or going home. We thank you for joining us for another exciting, insightful episode of Urpreneur, and I do look forward to seeing you on our next episode. Take care.